Hi readers, welcome back. Mrs. Malstadt here. This week we're going to be focusing on reading nonfiction texts, books that teach us and give us new information. So before we start reading a nonfiction text, anytime we begin reading, we want to make sure our brains are ready to learn that new information. So I want to teach you some ways that you can do that. So first, you can think, well, what sort of text is this? If we know that it's nonfiction, then we know that we're going to be ready to learn some new information and maybe even come across some new words. We can also look at the text features, like the photographs, captions, maybe even some bold words that are going to be important words to the topic. And those text features can also help us better understand what we're going to read. And then we can also use our prior knowledge to think back about the topic and think, what do we already know about this text? And using the information that we already know, we can put that together with the new information that's being learned, and that's going to help us better understand the topic as well. So let's give that a try with emperor penguins, the Antarctic diving birds. So I'm taking a look at the cover here, and I'm noticing in this photograph that there are two, I'm guessing, emperor penguins, that type of penguin, based on the title here. I can see that they are in their environment. It looks like they're standing in snow. And it does say that they're Antarctic diving birds. And so when I think about what I already know about Antarctica, I know that that's on the South Pole. And I know that it's very, very cold there. So I'm thinking that this book is going to be teaching us all about emperor penguins. So if we turn the page, we can see that they've provided a table of contents for us. So this text feature is helpful because it tells us what each chapter will be about. So let's take a look. So we have an introduction, meet the emperor penguin. So I guess they're going to maybe give us an overview about emperor penguins. Chapter 1, what do emperor penguins look like? Okay, so maybe they'll tell us about their structures and how those help them survive. Where do emperor penguins live? Chapter 3 is the underwater hunt of emperor penguins. So I'm wondering if maybe they hunt underwater. And then chapter 4 is the life cycle of emperor penguins. And when I think about what I already know about penguins, I know that they're a type of bird. So I bet for the life cycle, I bet it's going to start off with the stage of being an egg. So then there's some extra information at the end of the book, an emperor penguin trait chart, a glossary. So the glossary will have definitions to important words, a selected bibliography. So those are going to be other books, and then further information and an index. And an index is a special page that has topics on it. So let's say I wanted to look up about emperor penguins' feathers. I could look up the word feather into index and it would tell me exactly which pages have that topic. So now as we take a look, I can see in our introduction with Meet the Emperor Penguin that we've got a couple of really interesting photographs. So this first photograph, the caption says, Emperor penguins live in Antarctica. So that caption is explaining this photograph and describing where they are. And I'm seeing lots of penguins together, and I'm guessing that these are the babies because they're smaller, and it looks like this adult penguin is tending to the baby. And I can tell that they're social birds, that they like to be with their other birds because they're all together in this photograph. And then when I take a look at the photograph on the next page, this doesn't look like a caption. This just looks like the information on the page. But I'm seeing a penguin diving into the water, and he's with his other penguins, and I'm wondering if maybe they're hunting. And so I'm wondering if maybe they eat fish. On the next page, lots of really interesting photographs as well. So let's see, we've got another penguin here. He looks really fluffy. The caption says, layers of feathers keep emperor penguins warm and dry. And then this other photograph looks like a close-up of his feet. Wow. It says an emperor penguin's feet are webbed. So that reminds me of a duck. I know ducks have webbed feet. There's like skin between their, I guess you could call them toes. and that helps them glide through water more easily. And then this is an interesting text feature. This is like a text box, and usually there's an interesting fact in there. So let's see what this text box says about this penguin diving. Did you know most birds have hollow bones? Hollow bones weigh less and make it easier for birds to fly. But an emperor penguin's bones are solid and heavy. Being heavy helps emperor penguins sink deep underwater. So readers, I think that I'm ready to start reading. I have a good grasp that we're going to learn lots of information about emperor penguins, what they look like, even where they live and what they eat, and even about how their bodies are built. So what I want to do before I start reading is I want to ask myself some questions. When we ask ourselves questions, that helps us stay focused on the reading that we're doing, and it helps us just stay more engaged and interested in the text. So before we start reading, what questions do you have about penguins that you hope to find in the reading? Think to yourself first. So one question I'm wondering is, what do emperor, I just want to peek and see where that R is, emperor penguins eat? I'm guessing maybe they eat fish since they dive in the water, but that's something I'm really curious to find out more about. I'm also wondering how big emperor penguins get. When I take a look at the cover here, they look pretty large, especially compared to the little one. So I'm also going to ask, how big do they get? So as we're reading, we might be able to answer these questions. And then even during the reading, we might have more questions that come up that we might be able to answer. So let's start reading. Introduction. Meet the emperor penguin. A hungry emperor penguin plunges into the icy ocean. A powerful swimmer, the penguin dives deep in search of fish. Readers, did one of my questions already get answered? I wanted to know what the emperor penguins ate, and what did they tell us? A powerful swimmer, the penguin dives deep in search of fish to eat. So I've already answered one of my questions. Okay. Emperor penguins are a kind of bird. Birds are animals. Other kinds of animals you may know are fish, insects, reptiles, amphibians, and mammals. Emperor penguins live in Antarctica. All birds share certain traits. Birds are vertebrates, animals with backbones. Birds are covered with feathers. They also have 2 wings and a beak. Birds are warm-blooded. Their bodies keep a steady temperature regardless of the surrounding temperature. Okay, so let me think about what I've read so far. So we know that birds have certain traits. They're animals with backbones. And it says that they're warm-blooded. So no matter what the temperature is, that's like humans. Even if we go outside, our body temperature keeps a steady temperature. We still might need a jacket, but our body's able to regulate. Birds lay hard-shelled eggs. The emperor penguin shares these traits with other birds. It also has traits that make it unique. Okay, so some of the traits will be the same as other birds, like having a beak and having wings, but maybe it has some traits too that are different or unique than other birds. For example, I don't know if every single bird can dive and swim. Chapter 1. What do emperor penguins look like? Well, I'm wondering, one of my questions was how big do they get? So I know from reading other informational books about animals, sometimes they tell us how big animals get, so I'm going to keep an eye out for that. Emperor penguins are big birds. They're the world's largest penguin species. Emperor penguins stand about 45 inches or 115 centimeters tall. Readers, did my question get answered? What did they tell us about how big emperor penguins are? They're 45 inches tall. Let's see if they give us even more detail. They can weigh more than 80 pounds, 36 kilograms. That's about as much as some 11-year-old children. Wow, so some emperor penguins can weigh more than you. That's a big bird. Most birds weigh less, which helps them fly, but penguins can't fly. So that's something that makes them unique. Okay, so let's answer my question that I had. So they can get how many inches? 45. And how many pounds? 80. That is a big bird. So they can get 45 inches and 80 pounds. Wow. Okay. So now as we're reading, do you have any other questions? What are some other things you're wondering? Thick layers of feathers cover an emperor penguin's body. So I'm wondering, they've talked about how penguins can be similar to birds, but also different. So I'm wondering about these layers of feathers. Since penguins live in the cold, that structure is there to help them survive in the cold. But what if there's a bird that lives in Texas? Does that bird need thick layers of feathers? Maybe not. So that's something else I'm wondering while I'm reading. So I'm wondering, what is special about the emperor penguin's feathers? Question mark. Let's keep reading and see if they tell us. Okay, so thick layers of feathers cover an emperor penguin's body. The feathers help keep the bird warm. An emperor penguin's feathers are black on the back, head, and wings. Its belly feathers are white. The top of its chest is orange. An oily coating on penguin feathers makes them waterproof. The tips of the feathers overlap like shingles on a roof. This helps keep out water. Wow, so readers, it seems like there's a lot of special things about the emperor penguin's feathers, the structure that really helps him survive in his particular environment, being in the cold and being in the water. So what are some things that they told us about the feathers that help keep him warm? So they are talking about how they have an oily coating that makes them waterproof. So if their feathers are more waterproof, then that helps keep the water off of their skin under their feathers and helps keep them warm. What else? They say the tips of the feathers overlap like shingles on a roof. So if you've ever seen shingles on a roof, they lay one on top of the other. And so that's something that also helps keep out water. Okay, so let's go back and let's answer my question. So what's special about the emperor penguin's feathers? Well, they have an oily coating. And they overlap. Now, readers, when you're reading and you're asking and answering questions, these are ways to help you keep focused and to really understand the text. So if you choose to stop and jot some notes, these are notes that can really help you. And just notice, I'm just doing some quick jots here. So let's end with this caption. Layers of feathers keep emperor penguins warm and dry. So I like the way that they said layers, so I'm going to say overlap / they have layers. And then maybe I should say that both of these things keep them dry, which also keeps them warm. So readers, as you go off today, I invite you to read a nonfiction text and try out the strategies that we used. Remember, we started by getting our brains ready to read by looking through the text, thinking about the chapter titles and what we might learn. We also thought about the captions and the pictures. And then we asked questions and tried to answer them before and during the reading. That helps us stay focused. So I hope you choose to give that a try today, and happy reading.